The seating chart arrived 3 weeks before Melissa's wedding and my name wasn't on it. Not at the family table. Not at the singles table. Not anywhere in the main ballroom of the Grandview Estate, where my sister was marrying Preston Whitmore III, whose family owned half the commercial real estate in the state. "There's been a small change," Mom said over the phone, her voice carrying that particular brightness she used when delivering bad news. "We've decided to streamline the reception. You understand?" I understood perfectly. I'd understood since the engagement party 6 months ago when Preston's mother, Caroline Whitmore, had surveyed me with the kind of look usually reserved for stains on expensive upholstery. "And you do what exactly?" she'd asked, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light as she gestured vaguely in my direction. "I work in cybersecurity," I'd said. "Oh." The word contained volumes. "How modern." Melissa had laughed, looping her arm through Preston's. "Emma's our little tech nerd. Always buried in her computers. We keep telling her she needs to get out more, meet people, but you know how it is." The Whitmores had nodded sympathetically, as if my single status at 28 was a medical condition requiring intervention. Preston's sister Victoria had patted my arm. "Don't worry. The right man will come along. You just need to put yourself out there more." I'd smiled and said nothing. I'd been holding my phone when it happened, feeling the encrypted message vibrate against my palm. The notification I'd been waiting for. Confirmation that the security protocols I'd designed had successfully prevented a major infrastructure attack. The message was from someone whose name would have made Caroline Whitmore's jaw drop, but I'd simply excused myself to take the call privately. That had been the beginning of my family's campaign to minimize my presence at the wedding. First, I was removed from the bridal party. "We're keeping it small," Melissa explained. "Just Preston's sister and my college roommate. You understand, right? It's nothing personal." Then came the engagement photos, the bridal shower, the rehearsal dinner, each event carefully orchestrated to feature the right people. The Whitmore family. Melissa's sorority sisters. Preston's business school friends. People with the right connections, the right social media presence, the right kind of success that photographed well. "You can help coordinate from behind the scenes," Mom had suggested, her way of keeping me involved while keeping me invisible. "You're so good with logistics." The final insult arrived with the seating chart. Or rather, the lack of my name on it. "We've arranged for you to help manage the gift table," Mom said. "And if things get overwhelming, you can take breaks in the kitchen. The caterer's staff are very accommodating." "You're hiding me," I said flatly. "Don't be dramatic, Emma. We're just being practical. The Whitmores have very high standards and we want everything to be perfect. You understand how important Preston's family connections are for Melissa's future." I understood. I understood that my mother cared more about impressing people she'd known for 6 months than including the daughter she'd known for 28 years. I understood that my sister viewed me as an embarrassment, someone whose quiet competence didn't fit the narrative of her perfect wedding to her perfect husband from his perfect family. What they didn't understand was that I'd been expecting this. And I'd been preparing. The wedding day arrived with the kind of perfect September weather that seemed designed for social media posts. The Grandview Estate gleamed in the afternoon sun, its manicured gardens providing the ideal backdrop for hundreds of photos that would flood Instagram within hours. I arrived early wearing the simple navy dress Mom had approved, something that won't draw attention, she'd said, and carrying my phone. The device looked ordinary, but it contained security clearances that would have made the Whitmore's background checks look like child's play. "Emma." Mom spotted me immediately, her expression shifting from bride's mother radiance to barely concealed annoyance. "You're early. The gift table isn't set up yet." "I know. I wanted to make sure everything was in order." "Well, stay in the back until the ceremony starts. We don't want you in any of the pre-ceremony photos." She glanced around, lowering her voice. "Caroline specifically requested that we keep the family photos refined." Refined. The word tasted like ash. I watched from the kitchen hallway as guests arrived. The Whitmore social circle glittered with old money and new influence. Politicians, business leaders, the kind of people who appeared in the society pages. Preston's father, glad-handed estate senator. Caroline held court with the wives of Fortune 500 executives. And Melissa, radiant in her custom Vera Wang gown, smiled for an army of photographers, her bridesmaids arranged around her like accessories chosen to complement her aesthetic. My phone vibrated, Not the commercial vibration of a text message, but the specific pattern I'd programmed for high-priority encrypted communications. I glanced at the screen. Motorcade ETA 45 minutes. Confirm location secure. I typed a quick response, then slipped out the kitchen entrance to the service road. The Secret Service advance team had arrived an hour ago, conducting their security sweep with the kind of efficiency that came from protecting the most powerful office in the world. They'd coordinated with me directly, their protocols meshing seamlessly with the security architecture I'd designed. Ms. Chin. The lead agent Anderson nodded as I approached. We're on schedule. The president wanted to confirm you'd be available for the presentation. I'll be wherever you need me. Understood. We'll coordinate with you directly when the motorcade arrives. I returned to the estate through the kitchen, where the catering staff was executing the final preparations for the reception. The wedding coordinator, a woman named Stephanie who'd looked through me during every planning meeting, was barking orders about champagne flutes and centerpiece placement. Emma. She snapped her fingers. The gift table. No. And stay out of sight during the ceremony. I took my position at the gift table, tucked in an alcove off the main ballroom, invisible to the ceremony guests. Through the archway, I could see the chairs filling with the Whitmores' carefully curated guest list. I could hear the string quartet, the murmur of appreciation as Melissa made her entrance. My phone vibrated again. Motorcade 15 minutes out. The ceremony proceeded with clockwork precision. Preston and Melissa exchanged vows written by a professional speechwriter. The officiant, a federal judge who golfed with Preston's father, declared them married. The guests erupted in applause. And I waited, monitoring my phone as the pieces I'd set in motion 6 months ago converged on this moment. The reception began with champagne and carefully choreographed elegance. I remained at the gift table, a shadow in navy blue, while the Whitmore's photographer captured every angle of the celebration. Melissa and Preston glided through their first dance. Caroline Whitmore beamed for the cameras, her daughter-in-law already being absorbed into the family narrative. Mom found me during the salad course. The caterer says you can take your meal in the kitchen. We don't want you in the background of the dining photos. I'm fine here. Emma. Her voice hardened. Don't make this difficult. This is Melissa's day. Just stay out of the way. My phone vibrated. Motorcade arriving. Position staff. Actually, Mom, I need to step outside for a moment. I moved through the service corridor past the startled catering staff and emerged onto the circular drive just as the motorcade pulled through the estate gates. 3 black SUVs, moving with the kind of precision that made the Whitmore's luxury cars look like toys. The Secret Service had already secured the perimeter. Anderson met me at the entrance. Ms. Chin, the president will proceed directly to the ballroom. We'll need you to coordinate with estate security. Already done. The room is secure. The motorcade stopped. Doors opened. And the President of the United States stepped out, flanked by agents, his press secretary trailing behind with the kind of controlled urgency that came from managing world-changing schedules. Emma. President Matthews extended his hand, his smile genuine despite the formality of the moment. Thank you for making time. I know this is your sister's wedding. Thank you for coming, Mr. President. After what you did last month, preventing that infrastructure attack. This is the least I can do. He glanced toward the estate. Shall we? We entered through the main doors, the Secret Service moving in formation, their presence impossible to ignore. The estate coordinator appeared, her face cycling through confusion, recognition, and panic in rapid succession. We weren't, is that? The president is here to see Emma Chin, Anderson said crisply. Please inform the wedding party. Inside the ballroom, the toasts had begun. Preston's father was speaking, his voice carrying that particular boom of men accustomed to being heard. Proud to welcome Melissa into our family, a young woman who embodies the values and connections that... He stopped mid-sentence as the Secret Service entered the ballroom. The room fell silent. Heads turned. Someone gasped. Preston's father's champagne glass hung suspended in midair as he processed the sight of the presidential seal on the agent's lapels. And then President Matthews entered, and the ballroom erupted in whispers that built into a roar of recognition. Ladies and gentlemen. The president's voice cut through the chaos with practiced authority. I apologize for the interruption, but I'm here on urgent business. I'm looking for Emma Chin. Every head swiveled toward the gift table alcove, where I stood in my simple navy dress, still holding my phone. Melissa's face had gone white. Mom looked like she might faint. Caroline Whitmore's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. I walked forward through the crowd that parted like water, feeling hundreds of eyes tracking my movement. Mr. President. I stopped in front of him, maintaining the professional composure I'd learned in briefing rooms far more intense than this wedding reception. Miss Chin. He smiled, then addressed the room. I realize this is highly unusual, but I wanted to personally present this to Emma today, in front of her family and community. He nodded to his press secretary, who stepped forward with a wooden presentation case. President Matthews opened it, revealing a medal that gleamed under the ballroom chandeliers. Emma Chin, for your exceptional service to national security, your innovative cybersecurity protocols that prevented what could have been a catastrophic infrastructure attack, and your continued dedication to protecting our nation's critical systems, I'm honored to present you with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The room exploded. Cameras flashed, not the wedding photographer now but the White House press pool that had materialized from nowhere. Secret Service agents maintained their perimeter as the president placed the medal around my neck. Your work saved countless lives, he continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the ballroom. The protocols you designed have revolutionized how we protect critical infrastructure. You're not just a cybersecurity expert, you're one of the foremost minds in national defense technology. I glanced at my family. Melissa stood frozen at the head table, her perfect wedding reception transformed into something she'd never planned for. Mom's hand covered her mouth. Dad looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Caroline Whitmore, the woman who'd asked what I did exactly with such dismissive curiosity, stared at me with an expression that would have been satisfying if I'd cared enough to savor it. Thank you, Mr. President, I said quietly. The thanks are ours, Emma. He shook my hand again, then turned to the stunned wedding guests. I'm sorry to interrupt the celebration. Please, continue enjoying this beautiful wedding. His eyes found Melissa. Congratulations to the bride and groom. The president departed as efficiently as he'd arrived, the Secret Service escorting him out while the White House press pool captured final photos. The ballroom remained suspended in shocked silence even after the motorcade pulled away. Then the whisper started. That's the bride's sister? She just received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At a wedding? Did you hear what he said? National security? Infrastructure attack. Stephanie, the wedding coordinator, appeared at my elbow, her earlier dismissiveness replaced by barely concealed panic. Miss Chin, we had no idea. The seating chart. It's fine, I said. I'm comfortable at the gift table. No, please let me, we have a seat at the family table. I said I'm fine. I returned to my alcove, the medal heavy around my neck, and watched the reception attempt to resume. But the carefully orchestrated perfection had shattered. Guests kept glancing toward me, whispering behind champagne flutes. The Whitmore social circle, the people Mom and Melissa had been so desperate to impress, now knew that the lonely sister banished to the kitchen was apparently important enough to warrant a presidential visit. Melissa found me after the cake cutting, her mascara slightly smudged. Emma, why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? About everything. The president. The medal. The national security work. I looked at my sister, beautiful in her designer gown, surrounded by the perfect wedding she'd crafted while systematically excluding me from every significant moment. You never asked what I actually did. You just decided it wasn't important enough to include. But you could have. Could have what? Insisted on being in your wedding party? Demanded a seat at the family table? Forced you to acknowledge me? I shook my head. You made your choices, Melissa. You decided the Whitmore's approval was more important than your sister. You got the wedding you wanted. The guests keep asking about you. I know. She stood there, searching for something to say, some way to reframe this moment into something that fit her narrative. But there was nothing. The wedding she'd planned so meticulously had become the backdrop for my validation, and no amount of careful coordination could erase that. The reception ended earlier than planned. The Whitmores departed with the kind of strained politeness that indicated family discussions would happen in private. Guests filtered out, many of them stopping at the gift table to introduce themselves, to congratulate me, to ask about my work with carefully worded questions that respected the classified nature of what I did. Mom and Dad found me as the catering staff began breaking down the ballroom. Mom's eyes were red. "Emma, we didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I said. "There's a difference. We're your parents. We should have. You should have included me. You should have valued me for who I am, not hidden me because I didn't fit Caroline Whitmore's aesthetic." I removed the medal, placing it carefully in its case. "But you made your choice. You chose appearances over family." "We can fix this," Dad said. "We can." "No, you can't. This isn't something you fix with apologies or explanations." I picked up my purse. "Melissa got her perfect wedding. You got to impress the Whitmores. Everyone got what they wanted." "What about you?" Mom whispered. "I thought about that. About the years of being minimized, dismissed, treated as the embarrassing sister who didn't quite measure up. About watching my family prioritize strangers' opinions over their relationship with me. I got validation from the one person whose opinion actually matters in my field," I said. "And I got clarity about where I stand with my family." I left them standing in the decimated ballroom, surrounded by the remnants of Melissa's perfect wedding, and drove home to my quiet apartment. The Presidential Medal of Freedom sat on my passenger seat, tangible proof of achievements my family had never bothered to notice. My phone vibrated with a new message. Not from family, they'd be processing this for weeks, but from Anderson, the Secret Service agent. "The president wants you to know the offer still stands. His cybersecurity team would be honored to have you." I smiled, typing my response. "Tell him I'll consider it." Because that was the thing about being underestimated. It gave you the freedom to exceed expectations on your own terms, to build a life of genuine accomplishment while others chased the appearance of success. Melissa had her wedding photos, her Whitmore connections, her carefully curated social media presence. And I had the Presidential Medal of Freedom, earned through work that actually mattered, presented by someone who understood the difference between real achievement and performative success. The lonely sister banished to the kitchen, validated by the highest office in the nation. Mom was right about one thing. There had been a small change to the reception. Just not the one she'd planned.